So, I saw in the Leadwerks community there was sort of a demand for creating character models. So, I wanted to create a tutorial about how I make models in a pretty simple way, and I hope it's useful for some people. Um, Basically, I used a combination of free tools, including Make Human, which I guess is a primary tool in this case. Um, the big downside to using Make Human over other character creators is that it sort of limits what you can create in that you can't create caricatures or obscure creatures or things like that. You basically are limited to pretty standard humans, but you have a lot of customization. Anyway, I want to point out a few very important features of Make Human that make it suitable for game development. First of all, take care of the topology. There are basically three sets of topologies. These middle two are basically the same. One's geared more towards female characters and one's more towards male characters. Anyway, I think this is a default. I think this has about 30,000 triangles. I might be way off, but in terms of using it for game development, I wouldn't recommend this, especially if you have a lot of characters or you want to increase performance. I would recommend this, and you could probably generate a normal map to simulate the muscles and everything that the high-res mesh gives you. I would recommend this version though. Of course, you can pick either version, but I use the middle version partly because my characters have clothes, so you don't really see a lot of the muscle underneath. And then this is the very low poly version. I guess this is more geared towards mobile if you use it for mobile and stuff like that. Anyway, the second thing you want to change are the eyes. You want to pick low poly eyes. And it's not just for performance. The high poly eyes, once you import it into Leadwerks, it has issues with the materials because the outside of I think there's two layers of the eye, like a glossy layer and then the eye layer. So just pick that. Then you want to pick materials, so they have a bunch of different skins, and they're in PNG format, so you can edit them. And you can pick eye color too, but I guess it's just preference. And there's a bunch of other things as well. The last thing before exporting is to pick rig preset. I would pick the basic one. This one works with the method I'm showing, so just to be safe, it's useful for this. Actually, you could use the game one. Actually, yeah, the game one's probably much better. I mean, it has like less than half the bones. Okay, anyway. So you'll want to export in the Blender at Exchange format. So I just exported and yeah. So next let's go to the animation part. There's a great website, this website, Carnegie. If you just search Carnegie Mellon Mocap, you'll get a whole database of motion captures. But they're in kind of weird formats, so someone converted them all to BVH formats, which you'll need in this case. So we'll go to that site. It's under the Motion Builder friendly version. And they're all here. There's over 2,000 animations, I think, so it's sort of a lot, which is kind of nice. Yeah, so anyway, the next tool we'll use is the BVH hacker tool, which allows you to edit these animations. This step is optional, but for game development purposes, you'll probably want to edit them slightly, including recentering them and things like that. It's also useful for just viewing the animations. Even edit the height and things like that. You can play around with it. And then there's this nice feature called knit that loops the animation. And there's a whole bunch of other things you can do. It's a really useful tool. Anyway, so once you save it or load up Blender, you can search for plugins. Pick the 4 Make Human ones. Now you'll have the option to import Make Human files. So here's the Make Human file that we created. Now there is some sort of issue with the imported file where it exports the high-res mesh and the low-res mesh. So just delete the high-res mesh and you'll get the low-res. Okay, so since we have the character now, we can texture him in Leadwerks, so we don't really have to do it right now. But the big thing with so there's this, one of the plugins called Make Walk will allow you to retarget a BVH sequence and connect it to the Make Human character. So I took a little bit of a break because I forgot how to do some things in Blender. Anyway, so back to where I left off. So the way you do this is you select by right mouse clicking on the skeleton, and I think this is a default Blender view. Anyway, you'll click load and retarget, and then you can pick BVH animation. So I'll pick the one that I was viewing earlier. So now if you actually play the animation, it'll show the character that you exported from Make Human, and the character will be animated. So at this point you can export an FBX and it should import fine into Leadwerks. I didn't really have any issues with this other than the scale is huge when it goes into Leadwerks, so you'll obviously have to scale down. But other than that, it should work fine. One last thing, I'm not sure how to make multiple animations in Blender, but the thing I do instead is make one really long animation. So this was the animation I just showed. BVH file formats are convenient because they're human readable in that there's a header section that specifies bones and things like that. But then this part specifies all the motion and angles and everything of those bones. Anyway, so you can literally copy and paste all this data and append it to the end, and you'll get a longer animation. So if you have multiple animations you want to combine, you can do it that way. But if someone knows how to do multiple animations in this way through Blender, please let me know. Luckily in Leadwerks you can split up longer animations, so it should work fine either way. Thanks for watching this video. I hope it was helpful. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to comment or ask.